to our earlier story, where, of course, the statistical service is indicating that unemployment in the country is rising or shot up to 1.7 million, with the percentage movement going all the way to 25% in terms of unemployment rate here in the country. Let's speak now to Director of Corporate Affairs at the Youth Employment Agency, Kwesi Afriyie, who's joining the conversation. Sheriff Gali is founder and CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs. They are all joining the conversation now. Kwesi, thank you for your time. Staggering figures there from the Statistical Service. 25% rise in unemployment, 1.7 million. How do you intend to deal with this as the Youth Employment Agency?
Well, thank you very much, and let me greet your viewers this afternoon. The figures are really startling, as you say, and it's not too surprising because we have this all over the world, as economists would say, that this unemployment situation, because, of course, of the exogenous factors, is happening across the globe. Everybody has it hit by it, but the good news is that our government is doing a lot about it. If you come to the Youth Employment Agency, for example, we've tried to create as many as possible employment opportunities for the young people in Ghana. If you were with us yesterday, just yesterday, we have created an opportunity for about 6,000 young people who are looking for jobs in the insurance sector. So we are partnering with the National Insurance Commission and the Ghana Insurance College to recruit young people, 6,000 young people, train them for a week as insurance agents to do underwriting, to do brokerage, to do learn under the insurance experts, risk analysis, and so on and so forth, the day-to-day car registration and so on, and all of that, and eventually get deployed and get sustainable or permanent employment from these insurance companies. So we had about, I could count about 50 insurance companies here in Ghana who were part of our program yesterday at the College of Physicians and Surgeons. We could count about 400 to 500 people, young people who were looking for employment and participated in the program yesterday. We had the National Insurance Commission itself, and then the Ghana Insurance College, which is going to do the training, and that's starting from Monday. Aside that, we've been doing artisan directory programs where we have something we call BRI. People are being trained in brick molding and brick laying. We have the job center program where we have opportunities for young people that are also looking forward to get connected to the private sector, individual private sector companies. We have recruited about 15,000 community police personnel. In the last 6 or 8 months, we have recruited about 6,000 community health workers. So all of these are in the system, and we reckon the fact that there is hardships brought obviously by the COVID for young people like Sheriff Gali, who is very industrious and creating opportunities of entrepreneurship for young people here in Ghana. We are partnering with all of them and making sure that we are able to mitigate the startling challenges that we have, most of which you are talking about. And of course,
but if we put,
well.
But if we put all the figures together, the interventions that you're running, it will certainly not be up to 1 million or more.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I was just talking about the various interventions that you're running. If we put all of them together, you talk about the recent one that you're running, which will take up some 6,000 unemployed youth. If we bring together all the interventions you're running at the Youth Employment Agency, I doubt if we will be able to get the 1.7 million job opportunities. That's quite a high number, you agree? Kweku, can you hear me?
And there are several. Can you hear me?
Yes, we lost you briefly. If you could just take that point for me. I was asking you that if we bring together all the interventions you're running, 1.7 million is on the high side. You'll still not be able to equate the numbers now.
I agree. But what I'm saying is that the Youth Employment Agency is one institution. And if we are doing about 35,000 young people for employment in a year or in about 8 months, there are other institutions like the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program. There is the National Youth Authority. If all of them are doing the numbers that we are doing, obviously we'll be able to meet up or mitigate or reduce that 1.7 million number. So yes, we agree that the number is on the high side, and we are all aware that this has been brought about not by any normal procedure or by any normal means, but by the fact that things which are beyond the control of our economic managers and, of course, individual economic managers of any country, things that have happened across the globe is really affecting people. I was in the US, I think, last week or so, and if you listen to radio, if you watch TV, the problem and the challenge is everywhere. And we are doing our best to make sure that we mitigate the problem, as I've said. Well, the numbers may not be enough, but we believe that if 1 year, we are able to create new jobs of about 30 to 35,000 jobs, then that is not a small number to overlook. And if we're able to, in all other sectors, local government, Ministry of Trade, and all of the other sectors are doing the same.
It appears we're having some challenges connecting to Kwesi Afriyie there, but of course he's been talking about the interventions from the Youth Employment Agency to tackle this youth bulge. Let's bring in Sheriff Gali. Sheriff, let's see if the lines to you are much clearer now. You've seen the numbers, and you say the way to go is to do some private partnership to enable access to capital, which will help the youth create their own jobs.
Yeah. So,
can you hear me?
Yes, Kwesi, I'll come back to you briefly. Just hold on for us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's so alarming to see these numbers, but it's not a prophecy. It's something that we've been talking about from COVID-19. We've been talking about the young people who will be losing a lot of jobs. We've been talking about this. So it is not a prophecy, something that we have seen coming. But, you know, as it is, we always have to equate it to what is happening on the global market, where there's recession, where there's, granted, we understand these things here, it affects everyone. It affects us as, our country, Ghana. But you see, Blessed, when we want to talk about putting in measures to be like a stopgap to some of these issues, we are talking about being deliberate. If you look at Ghana's unemployment situation, it has been something that is happening. It's not today. It's been happening long. Just that the increment now is too wild that everybody is running haywire about. But it's been happening. And it's all hinged on three main things. And the three main things are as easy as possible for any other person who, even if you are not if you are not a leader of the economy, you should know some of these things. Number one is the skill set of our young people. You see, Blessed, go back to our tertiaries. What do we churn out? Young people who only know who can chew and pour, and they don't have any technical skills coming up. Blessed, it is even becoming more serious, because let me tell you what, AI has come to take over people's job. A lot of people, whether we like it or not, no matter how beautiful we make it look, there will be more people losing their jobs because AI is going to replace some people. Technology, just this technology, even knowing common Microsoft Word, a lot of our graduates do not know. So it boils down to the skill set of our young people that we are churning out today. We need to relook at that as a nation. The other thing is that, to be honest with you, Akwesi have said so many things, but the truth is that there is that still loophole between government and private sector. There is not that partnership, that serious collaboration. And when we lose that, then there so many things happen. Just imagine these 3 new taxes that have been introduced. Ask yourself as a business person, will you like to employ somebody and add to the burden of your payroll? No. So if the private sector is supposed to serve as a partner to employ, to support government employ, and now private sector have to battle with taxes and then have to even reduce their cost of production, then they will not even think of employing. And that is a problem. So there need to be serious collaboration between government and the private sector. If government sits with the private sector to talk, some of these things we can work with them to mitigate them. Then the last thing is that the deliberate effort and the political will. This government have done their best. I have seen what they want to do with NEIP, the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program, seen what Kwesi, my good friend, and co are doing with YE, but it's not enough. We need to be deliberate. If you want to promote youth entrepreneurship, then you need to be deliberate about it. You need to make sure there's funding. You need to make sure there's capacity building. You need to make sure that there's access to market for these young people. Ask yourself, all the young entrepreneurs who are battling on their own. They do not get any support from anywhere. So we need to be deliberate. We need to have that political will to say that, hey, we cannot create the jobs. Let us stop giving fake numbers. We can create the jobs, or we can do our best as government, but we can't solve the unemployment problem alone. What do we need to do as a state, as a government, is that let us go back to the drawing board and empower the young people to be creative. Let them create the jobs. Let them, even if they are not employing others, let them create their own jobs to be self-employed. By so doing, you provide them the necessary skills they need to be entrepreneurs. You provide them access to capital, and then also open up the market for these young people. If not, this thing will continue. 25%, you are seeing it, and we are all opening our eyes. But it may even be more. And as we go forward with AI and all of these things coming, it will surprise you. So the skill set, the collaboration between government, that is the public-private partnership, it needs to be looked at, and that of the effort to support youth entrepreneurship. If this is not done, we may still have to record more. And sadly, I have to say I'm not seeing any better way for us. Yes.
Sheriff, just hold on. Let's see what the thoughts of Akwesi will be on this. Akwesi, if you're with us, is it time that we brought together all of these separate youth and entrepreneurial programs and agencies set up by government to oversee the creation of job opportunities for the youth? Probably bring them under one big umbrella so we're able to tackle this problem head on.
So if you say one umbrella, I would be asking whether one umbrella under a ministry or one umbrella under one single institution, because all of these institutions obviously have their individual specialties. If you come to the Youth Employment Agency, for example, our Act 2015 Act 887 exactly mandates us to make sure that the young people between the ages of 15 and 35 have jobs, whether in the private sector or in the public sector, whether we are creating the jobs or we are facilitating a very conducive environment for the private sector to be able to recruit. If you go to NYA, for example, they are supposed to take care of the policy regulations and provide also the conducive environment for the youth themselves, that's the young people, to thrive. If you go to National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program, the specialty, maybe with the Ghana Enterprises Agency as well, is to make sure that people like Sheriff Gali, people like, we can talk of Solomon and all of the startup institutions and entrepreneurship institutions, devoid of your age, not between the ages of 15 and 35 like we will do, will be catered for. So far as you have a business plan, so far as you have an idea, so far as you have a vision that you want to implement, so far as you need some kind of funding and you can prove your worth in being able to make sure that your business thrives. Of course, the business won't just thrive, but it will inure to a lot of people also being employed. Then you lay with the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program or the Ghana Enterprises Agency. So, yes, it is important that we synergize, we put our efforts together, but maybe not necessarily put all the institutions together. However, there has to be coordinated efforts between these institutions to make sure that not just the young people that we, the Youth Employment Agency, looks at, but the young people, the active brackets of the people in Ghana, and everybody, whether old or young, whether you are looking for, if only you are looking for a job, will be able to find a job.
Yeah, but the point is, if the approach as it is now was working effectively, then the numbers shouldn't have been going up from 19% thereabout in 2021. Now the figures are staggering. So why not collapse everything, bring everyone together so we find a new approach to this?
So I think really the numbers we are seeing now, it's not about the current approach. I agree that, yes, of course, we need to improve upon the activities of the current approach for each institution. We really need to make sure that each of them is working. And I'm telling you how the Youth Employment Agency, within just 1 year, it hasn't happened anywhere in the country before or in any of the institutions before that. Since Mr. Kofi Japan took over, in 1 year, new jobs, both within the private and the public sector. So our collaborations with a company like INZAG is creating 800 new jobs for people in the artisan industry. Our partnership with a company, a private sector company in the cocoa industry, is going to create about 4,000 new jobs, and we are putting that advert out. We have put that advert out already. These are partnerships that we are embarking on, making sure that the young people are having jobs. And I'm saying that if all institutions are effective as the YE currently is and are creating enough jobs, it will never now be about putting all the institutions together to make sure that we have a synchronized effort. But if we synergize, if we make each of the institutions effective and coordinate very well, we'll still arrive at the same point where we want to arrive at when we put all of these institutions together. So for me, it is to make sure that each and every one of them is getting enough support from government, enough funding from government, enough structures within their sectors, and to make sure that the mandate for which they have been set up is being actualized. And the numbers that they are looking for, we are able to create them. And I'm saying again that the numbers that we are seeing, the skyrocketing numbers in unemployment that we are seeing, cannot be, if you look at it economically, you cannot rate it like any other year. So, for example, if you want to rate it like 2005, 2006, 2007, or you rate it 2014, 15, 16, you cannot rate that same period between 2020 to 2023 because economically, the foreign influence, the exogenous factors are overriding the endogenous factors. The things that the economic managers of our country can control are subservient to the things that they cannot control. Look at the world oil prices now. Look at the dollar rate now. Look at our inflation rate now. And inflation rate is not happening here in Ghana alone. Exchange rate is not happening here in Ghana alone. All of the factors, economic factors, macro factors, micro factors that we will be speaking about are not happening in Ghana alone. It's happening across the globe. And so the same way inflation is rising here in Ghana, it is rising in the US, it is rising in Europe, it is rising in Asia. The same way unemployment is rising, and we can all
but for us to know the effectiveness of the policies you are running, have you been able to quantify your contribution, for instance, to the job creation agenda? As the YE,
we have positioned ourselves. We have positioned ourselves as a youth employment agency. Number one, to be the fulcrum or the pivot of the president's 1 million jobs agenda, and now we are talking about 1.7. So I'm sure eventually it is not just about the president's 1 million jobs agenda, but it will be about the entire unemployment situation we have in the country. So now we'll be talking about 1.7. We are saying that we are going to lead that agenda to create more employment for the youth. And that's why now, if you realize that the Youth Employment Agency some years back was only talking about community protection assistance, what people know as a community police. We're only talking about community health workers or community education, teaching assistants, TETA, and so on and so forth. But now I'm talking to you about a collaboration with a private company in the construction sector to construct roads. I'm talking to you about a collaboration with the real estate industry for people to be able to, on their own, design and build the red bricks and know how to set them up and build houses on their own. So they become masters of their own. We are collaborating with the private sector, the artisanal industry, to build people up as plumbers, as masons, and so on and so forth. I'm talking to you about the BRI. I'm talking to you about the cocoa industry, a collaboration with a private sector company, which is going to recruit young people to become extension officers on cocoa farms, especially in the Western region. All of these were non-existent before. So Sheriff was talking about being innovative, having new ideas. Of course, AI is coming. We have sat around the table as management of the Youth Employment Agency, and we are saying that we are in the advent of COVID. Unemployment is rising. What else can we do to augment the current activities of the agency? We realized that we need to fall on the private sector. We need to provide a conducive environment for the private sector. We needed to open up the private sector. And that is why all of these new initiatives that I'm talking about are coming up. The cocoa, the farms, all of the new initiatives are coming up. So yes, our contribution is very significant, and we are moving forward to make sure that the numbers Ghana Statistical is releasing, and these are just new numbers. So of course, it is in retrospective, year on year. So we will talk about the previous year. If we add hours now and we tabulate all the new numbers that are coming up, I'm sure the 1.7 will come down. And our effort is to make sure that we're able to solve the problem.
Sheriff?
Yes, Blessed. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, so Akwesi has said it. I like what he said. If any other or all other agencies are putting in place their effort, just like they are doing at YE, they will be able to create more jobs. And that is true. Actually, he said it. And one other thing, it boils down to the fact that central government need to be deliberate in supporting the creation of jobs and pushing for youth entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
I be able to say it, but I can say it for him. They are there, are supposed to be the engine for creating and facilitating jobs, but they are not even resource. Akwesi may not say it, he may argue, but that's a reality because we know. And it's not the only agency that is supposed to. So this is where it goes back to the point of talking about we being deliberate and that political to support the creation of jobs. If the YEA can be empowered, they may be able to do a lot. And if the government is serious about youth entrepreneurship, we can leverage on NEIP. Up till now, NEIP is just a government vehicle. Their funding is nothing to talk about. You don't even know where their source of funding is coming. So how can the vehicle that is supposed to support young people who want to become entrepreneurs, they don't even have funding themselves? So ask yourself, what are we doing? We need to give them that status. We need to support the agencies to do the work. So I don't always have a problem with this technocrat. But I have a point with the central government and what we do with our national budget. So the three things I mentioned and which I stand by, and Akwesi said he's a friend, is important. The skill set of the youth. It is not your fault as YEA not to get the right skill set because they are not giving that skills from the universities. So this is where Akwesi and his team needs to understand that they have to push for this. Second, the central government have to be very, very deliberate about youth entrepreneurship. We've been pushing for the Ghana Startup Bill. One of the reasons why the Startup Bill is important is that it's going to set incentives for young people to start business. Ask yourself, how interested is the central government in this? Every other African country is adopting it because they know what it can do. Others have implemented it and benefit their economy. Are we doing the same thing? These are the things we should be looking out for. And then finally, whether we like it or not, you cannot push the young people to become entrepreneurs like the finance minister said some time ago without the necessary, without the funding, without the capacity, and without the access to market. Then we are just saying that, hey, come and collect 5,000 Ghana cedi from NEIP, from GEA, and go and spend it. Because these things are supposed to be connected, and we have to be deliberate about it. Okay. So yes, that is my point, yeah.
We need to go. Any final words from you, Akwesi?
Hello?
Yes, any final words, marching orders, if I may put it that way?
Yes, one point I wanted to make finally is that we may agree with the statistics, but being at the Youth Employment Agency for over 5 years now, there is one thing I have realized, that there may be jobs in the system, but there are people who are not willing, unemployed though, but are not willing to take those jobs up. I can talk about the insurance sector, the number of jobs that we have provided in the insurance sector. We'll call on the young people to reduce their expectations and take up the jobs which we are able to give.
Okay, let's see how that works out. Sheriff, thank you. And thank you, Akwesi, for joining us all.
Right.
Of course, let's see how that will pan out in the next few days. But you're watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. When we get back, we'll talk about the minority in Parliament. They are already kick-started some processes to launch a full-scale probe into the report issued by Professor Frimpong Boateng. We'll look at that when we get back. Please stay.